Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Repeat after me. Good morning, Toastmasters.
Good morning, Toastmasters.
Good to know you've all been to school.
Yes.
Can you hear me up the back, Heath? No, you cannot. On. Quiet, is it? Doing some sound checks at the moment. Man with the fluffy white beard is ready. How's the sound up the back?
Could be better.
So this is a test for the speakers. This is where they really got to, all these practices, what they've been learning over the years, comes down to this moment. They'll do a few visuals. You can see the screen.
Yes.
Did everyone get their smiley ball?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. Just got one little piece of paper.
Got a room full of Toastmasters and there's no talking.
Except
Not
it
believable.
speaks to Daryl's ability to command the room.
And that is the power of the pause, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel uncomfortable.
You're not that's the line. You've never been uncomfortable.
Hello,
Toastmasters.
Chicky.
District 73 Toastmasters and guests, if you are a guest, I'd like to really warmly welcome you with all my heart to the dream, write, and live your story. Because we are all dreamers, we all write stories, and then we live them. And many people in this room have lived their story. And some of them are here to share it today through all the contests. And for those of you who are not competing, you just kick back and have a good time, because you cannot do this on Zoom, ever. So make sure there's lots of hugs, there's lots of photos, selfies, which everyone stand up and take a selfie before I really get kicking going.
This is priority one.
Priority one.
Yeah.
Full use of cameras. Keep them on silent, please. But full use of cameras. Make sure you get some photos. This is what it looks like. Take many photos of it together you've all come with today. So you've got a smiley ball. The reason why we've got a smiley ball is, first of all, to make sure you smile all weekend. But secondly, most importantly, is to write your special moment on it. What captured you? Because throughout the 2 days, I'm going to be asking if you've written something on there that captured your emotion, your soul, heart, the reason why you're here. I wrote on mine, share your story. Be a life changer. Who wants to be a life changer with your story? Because we never ever know who's going to be in a room somewhere someday and you're delivering a speech and there'll be someone sitting way back in the room where Heath is. And how you doing down there, Charles? And you will change their life in a heartbeat. Has everyone experienced that so far? Has everyone come up to you and said, thank you for sharing your story? Thank you for taking time out. 5 to 7 minutes can be quite powerful. Even silence can be just as powerful. But we are gathered here today in the lands of the Kulin Nations and in this virtual space to continue our learning journey together. In the spirit of reconciliation and the traditional acknowledgement, the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia, what a country it is, whose peoples have been stewards for tens of thousands of years. We recognise all First Nation people, paying our respects to the elders, and there's some oldies in the room even here tonight. Past and present extended respect of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, peoples of today as we acknowledge their connection to the land, sea and community. And of course, where everyone's come across to the globe, travelled to Australia to live and embrace this amazing country. 15 words came into my life a number of years ago. And they represent the way I carry myself, I believe, today. Those 15 words are: the spirit of life is when you give and share your spirit to another life. The spirit of life is when you give and you share your spirit to another life. This is what today is all about. The vision to have 100 people or so in a room together and not on Zoom anymore. So embrace that and share your gifts and share your spirits. I'd like to now welcome Namrata, our District Director, to get the show moving.
Thank you so much, Daryl, and good morning and welcome over here. I'm not on a screen anymore. I'm right in front of you and so glad to see everyone in person. Finally. Well, I'm going to start with something that is going to probably resonate with you. Once upon a time, there was a young girl from far, far away land of abundance and of galore. She was loved, and laughter and happiness surrounded her quite often. She saw people's struggles and always leaned towards to helping everyone she could, just as her mother and father, her parents. They instilled in her confidence, integrity, and respect for young, elders, and equals. And most of all, they helped her grow into a person with freedom in her heart to find her purpose of her soul. This feeling of purpose drew her to places across the globe, but she didn't know what life had stored in for her. One place on earth she never thought she might come to, not because she had anything against it, it was just that it was far away from her birth home and a beautiful continent. But it never crossed her mind that one day this very land will become her home. Its people will become her people, and she will get to serve its people as her own. In this land of boundless possibilities, adventure awaits at every turn. Whether you seek solace in nature's embrace or crave the energy of bustling city life, this land holds the key to unlock and ignite your sense of wonder, a symphony of sights and sounds, whispers a melody that resonates deep within the soul. It is a place where dreams take flight and where the beauty of nature and the human spirit converge in perfect harmony. She's here, standing in front of you, writing her story with you and for you. She's the most happiest today that she has met some amazing humans and shall continue to do so till her last breath. Too much to say that. On this ancient, majestic land where people care for each other with open hearts and welcome everyone with big hugs. Welcome to District 73 Toastmasters 2023 annual conference. And I would like to acknowledge our leaders within this room today. Today we have the past international director, Charlie Starrett. If you can give a wave. There you go. We also have our past district director, Sue Pedrick. We have Judith Talanova. And we have Kayleen Ledger, our past region advisor. Not used to so many people in the room, you know, it's easy to find on Zoom screen. Well, it is my honor and my absolute pleasure. Yes.
You also had Maureen Sinclair.
And Christine Dimitrov.
Oh, Christine. My apologies. There you go. Again, my apologies. Not used to this anymore. Please put your hands together for our past district director, Marlon Sinclair. And one of our past district director, Christine Dimitrov. Well, you can see that we have dignitaries within the room. So it's going to be an awesome conference. We're going to make it awesome. It is my honor and my absolute pleasure to welcome each one of you today, our proud District 73 Toastmasters, to this extraordinary, not just in person, not just online, but a hybrid conference event in the history of District 73 Toastmasters. Let's make this the best and fun event for all of us. Enjoy it to the fullest. Say hello to mates you haven't seen in person for years. And don't forget to share warm hugs with each other. I have done that since morning a lot. So you wouldn't be feeling that cold in the room today. Let's rewrite our stories today in this beautiful Toastmasters journey and make it the most memorable of all. Well, with that, I would like to call upon our district annual conference chair, Darrell O'Reilly, up on stage again. And thank you so much and welcome.
How cool is that? Well, we are in for a very, very special treat right now. Our keynote speaker to kick the day off, inspire us all, inspire our minds, inspire our thinking, change our thinking, and to move for the next step where you want to be in your own personal lives. How I've come to know Simone was way back in 2016 when I attended my first Beechcraft course in Ballarat, and who drove all the way down from Horsham to also attend a Speechcraft course. And this is where Simone O'Brien's journey began, to now flipping all over Australia, overseas, and sharing her story, because that's why she started in a Speechcraft. She wanted to share her story and inspire others to change as well. Simone is a domestic violence survivor, now a speaker, a very strong advocate for women against violence, and mother of 3. Sadly, she's involved with Collingwood. In a good way, but it's the stripe thing that's a problem. Her journey started back in 2012 when she suffered a horrific attack at the hands of a perpetrator who would take no for an answer. And it started with emotional and psychological abuse and ended up with her being beaten with a baseball bat. Inches of her life. Somehow, with the support of family and friends, Simone got through that night. And then today, she travels Australia and internationally, like I said, to share a story of courage, strength, and to raise awareness on the red flags related to domestic violence, to prevent these incidents from happening again. Using her personal story, and I've been tracking her personal story through our Facebook friendship, Simone aims to champion non-violent violence against women and children. As we know, men are involved in this too, both sides, to stop domestic violence. Without further ado, I would very much pleasure, all the way from Ballarat, like really Horsham, she still travels in a car down the highway. I'd love to welcome Simone O'Brien to share her dream. She wrote a story, and here she is today.
Thanks, Daryl, and I can't thank him enough for me standing here today, presenting to you all. And I am a little bit nervous, not nervous to stand up here in front of you, but I just hope I do everything right in your eyes. And yes, I am going to tell you a story of my life, how it's gone from a negative to a positive, and hence why now I don't understand, why I can be where I am, but mentally and physically, I'm in the best state, best mindset of my life to do what I've done and or am doing. And just to put you in the perspective of how busy I actually am, I'm in 3 different states in 5 days, and obviously Victoria is one of them. And I was in Kingaroy yesterday and go to Mount Gambier tomorrow. So I shouldn't be this busy in the topic that I'm talking on domestic violence, because we need to stop it. It's not fair and I will talk mainly that we need to save women and children, because that's only because of the stats. And don't get me wrong, and I've got nothing against men at all, because men are affected by domestic violence, but obviously in the media it's because of the figures. But moving forward with all that, last year up until November, 24 children actually lost their life because of domestic violence. That's what really hurts with me, is because they were put on this earth for a reason, as well as women were too. And as I speak to you, we've lost 21 women in Australia. We haven't even been 21 weeks of the year as such. One was only 2 nights ago in Caboolture. And 4 young children under 7 are left without a mother for the rest of their life. So these are things that now I'm not here to get sympathy or anything like that. I just want you, in wherever you are in the world, or whoever you're mingling with, is stand up against domestic violence. Pick up people if you know it's not okay in what they're saying and how they're saying it, because that's where we're going to make a change. That respect word, as much as I hate saying this, it's gone out of our world today. No one has respect, for each and every one, which is really sad. And little things, I know, before I get into my actual story, but we need to bring back, neighbourhood watch and that, so we're looking out for each other each and every day. And I love the idea of the smiley faces on the ball and the pins, because when you see what I've gone through, I actually said 3 things to myself each and every day to get to where I am today, and they're free. And that was just keep smiling, never give up, and stay positive. And that's my outlook in life. I just turn any negative into a positive. So yes, I knew nothing about of domestic violence, let alone Toastmasters, up until the age of 37. And at that stage, I am is that going to come up on the screen? Sorry.
Here we go.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Thank you. I am a might have to come over here. Oh, okay, not working
You
there.
can just say click or something.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry. I'm a mum of 3 amazing children who, when you see what you're about to see, besides the angels, you know, making me be here speaking today, is because of these 3 people behind you. And you've got Gabby with the blonde hair, who is now 26. You've got Ashlyn with the dog, on the left. She's now 20, almost 23. You've got Zach, who's almost 21. And when I found out about Toastmasters, obviously, yes, to put you in the bigger picture of things, of my whole background of story, their biological father and myself actually separated when Zach was only 3 years old. And it wasn't because of any domestic violence or nothing like that. It was actually because we had too much money. He wanted to take me away, you know, let's go to Fiji, let's go to Perth, let's do this, let's do that. We had the $1 million home, we had the boats, we had everything. But you know what, I just wanted to stay at home and be a mum. And we separated amicably at that stage. And so we had Gabby here in a little town called Dimboola, where I actually was born and grew up, and, you know, all my schooling, etc. And because he couldn't get work, we actually moved up to Brisbane for him to get work. And obviously then I was a stay-at-home mum with Gabby, and we got married and went on to have 2 further children. And being up there, and so when we did separate, I stayed up there because the children were, you know, obviously in their schooling, etc. And that was like home to me then, with our friends and different people up there. So moving forward, once we separated, Zach, being at that 3.5 years old, I got to the age of 37, and I worked 2 jobs up there with Transport and Main Roads, and I actually managed functions at the same time because Gabby was actually a state basketball player. And then, that age of 37, I still like having a beer, but I don't go out to nightclubs or pubs or anything like that. And the kids are always with me. How am I going to meet someone if I don't go out and my children are always with me? So I decided I'd get onto the internet dating site, and that I'm not IT savvy, as you can tell with this remote. I thought, well, you know, what am I looking for? And prior to working those 2 jobs, I actually worked in real estate, and I knew you had to have a police check to get your real estate license. So I was scrolling through the men on the site, and popped up a real estate agent. And that was like a light bulb moment to me. I thought, perfect, he's got to be safe because he's got a police check to get his real estate license. So I clicked on him, and you can chat through the site. So we did that, but I put boundaries in then myself because of the 3 children. I said to him, I can only chat at 9 o'clock at night. You know, I've got 2 jobs, and my children come first with schooling, feeding, and just family time after, before they go to bed. And that was okay. We did that. Then he asked if he could have my number, so I gave it to him. So we were texting. And then he said, can we phone? And I still said at 9 o'clock at night. And he was okay with that. Then it moved forward, and he said, can I take you on a date? And, you know, obviously I hadn't been on a date for all those years. And I thought to myself, yeah, okay, I'm 37, you know, I know a lot of people, etc. around. And so I did go, and he picked me up and greeted me at my home with a bunch of flowers. And I was very grateful because I didn't receive a bunch of flowers for many years. And I left them at home, and I actually had a sitter with the children at home. And then moving into that, going to dinner, and I know I've got a smile on my face and thinking, oh, I haven't been out for dinner for a long time. Who pays? You know, do you pay half or whatever? But I was very, very grateful he actually paid for the whole dinner. And then he dropped me home, and the children obviously asked me how was it, and I said, oh, you know, it was nice. So we kept ringing each other and chatting, and obviously ended up into a relationship. But over a period of 9 months, little red flags grew. And there were little red flags that just didn't sit right in my tummy. And it was deleting contacts out of my phone, which I was actually blaming Zach at the time. And he was 10 at this stage, and Ashlyn was 12 and Gabby was 15. And I said, Dad, mate, I said, please don't delete my contacts. I need them, you know, for you to pick up and drop off and different things. You know, we live a busy life. And, you know, it got to 5 or 6 times that the contacts had been deleted. I thought, no, Zach, he's never done this before. That's not right. And then I started introducing him to my friends. And it was when the one bill per table would come in at restaurants. So because he was meeting my friends, I would just give my credit card over and my friends would give me the cash. But that cash was going missing. So I'm blaming Zach again for little Zach. I was saying, mate, I said, please don't. I said, I can't afford tuck shop. You know, I work 2 jobs. You 3 kids live a busy life. He goes, Mummy, it wasn't me. I didn't. And those little things might not seem much, but they were not sitting well with me. And I suppose I'd, you know, been a single person for so long. Then it was, I was getting my fingernails done. It was a Saturday morning and he said, oh, I'll go and take your SIM card and get your new phone for you if you like. So he did. He went off and did it, you know, to save time. And he came back to me and he said, oh, no, your SIM card's got a split in it. They can't do it. But that's weird because it didn't have it before. The real clincher was, for me, was he started sending me flowers to work. And because I worked in a government agency, like he couldn't come into the office, etc. So he started sending him not just one bunch, you know, every 2 or 3 weeks. It was every day. I felt sick. So from that note, I want you to run with your gut feeling on anything. So I felt sick in the tummy from these flowers. And, you know, obviously my boss and that would go, oh, Simone, he's a keeper, you know, good on you. You found someone that, you know, is going to be really nice for you. I then, I put you in the picture of him. His personality was he was a gentle giant, as in opened the car door for myself and the children, never said the word SHIT in front of us. So, you know, he had good manners, etc. These flowers were the real clincher for me. And there was other little things, but, you know, nothing to rave about compared to, well, what I thought these big red flags were. And I got to Saturday, the 23rd of September, 2012, and I rang a friend, and with myself not knowing about it, you know, all the children about domestic violence at the age of 37, because I didn't have any, you know, no family or friends or anything had been through it, domestic violence, etc. I rang a friend on this Saturday and I said to her, I said, how do I get out of this relationship now that I know? I said, I'm just not happy, you know, I'm just worried about little red flags. She said, let's do it on Monday when you drop the children at school. That word let's might not seem nothing in everyday life, but you know what, for me, it's going to be a word that is stuck by me and will forever, because she said, let's do it on Monday when you drop the children at school. And having her support in that, even though it was only one person that knew that I was going to end a relationship, I was really chuffed. It was like, oh, good, you know, I've got peace of mind off my shoulders. And then, so Monday morning came and I struggled through the weekend because I knew I was going to do it. Monday morning came, I dropped the 2 girls at school. They were at high school and Zach was, you know, primary school, so I dropped him off. And then I had a half an hour train ride into the CBD of Brisbane. And I said to myself, now, how do I do this? Do I phone, email or text? And, you know, I did do the gutless way. I just texted him and it was like, yes, a relief for me to be out of the relationship. And me being that country girl, I just thought that was how it would end too. Got to lunchtime and there was no mobile phones at work like there are today. And I could see there were hundreds of messages and I didn't reply. I just left it. And then did the afternoon work session and then put the train home, and same again, you know, there were loads of them. And obviously the investigator said that, you know, it was a ridiculous amount of messages. And I've never seen them. Obviously my phone was confiscated when you see what has happened, you know, for evidence. But getting home at 6 o'clock, and Zach was actually at basketball training this night, and Ashlyn and Gabby are at home. And Gab was not only my daughter, but my best friend. She, you know, 15 and, you know, run everything by her. We did everything together. And she would always start cooking dinner and, you know, just help out with Ashlyn until I got home. And so I walked in at 6 o'clock and I said, hey girls, you know, how's school? Boring. You know, did you learn anything? No, you know, same conversation. And I, you know, just talking a little bit, so thanks, you know, cooking dinner. And then I said to them, I said, oh, Mummy ended the relationship today. And Gary did this big fist pump. I said, yes. And Ashlyn being 12 said, Mummy, will he come back? And I said, no, darling, you know, when you end a relationship, that's, you know, normally how it ends, you know, teaching them life skills. Then at 6:06, I did see a knock at the door, and there was a little glass panel that was in my door, and I could see, and sorry for all you men in the room, and you're not a perpetrator, but if I can use that word perpetrator now in my story, and I apologise for that. I could see the perpetrator through the glass window, and I thought I was taught to show respect. Whoever speaks to you, speak to, or you acknowledge them. So I knew I hadn't spoken to him verbally all day, so I went and opened the door. I said, "Hi, how you going?" And he said, "Can we please speak about this?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And because I've got two girls in the kitchen, he said, "Can we go into your bedroom?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah." The only question I remember him asking me was, "Why can't we make this work?" And I said to him, I said, "Look, I can't give you 110%. It's not fair on you. You deserve someone better than me." I said, "I've got 2 jobs, 3 kids, blah, blah, blah." I said, "I'm happy to be your friend and find you someone, that you can have, that has got time for you." So the next photo I am going to show you is going to be at my worst. And to put you into that perspective, so I walked in and he was asking me that question and shut the door. And at home, being a single mum, I never shut any doors or anything like that because I like to hear if the children were burping, farting, sick on the phone or whatever. And I could hear the 2 girls outside the door when he was asking me that question, and it was like, good, they're there. Me being in my corporate at that stage, walking in first, the investigators and detectives don't know whether he actually pushed me to the ground or I did trip because I did have my high heels on. But the next minute I look up and there was a baseball bat coming down on my arm, and I knew my arm was broken. And I yelled out to the girls, I said, "Girls, come in, Mummy needs your help." They came in and Gab's eyes looking at me. I said, "Gab, go and get Mummy help. I need your help. Go and get the neighbours or, ring 000. And she looked at me as if saying, "Mummy, you'll be able to get up. You can do anything from fix the house, the car, mow the lawns and da-da-da." Do you know what? I honestly thought I was going to die because I did try pushing up on this arm to get it push me up, but because that was broken, the bone was actually out the skin. So the girls did go and get help. But this is where now, for me in my life, I honestly, I do not care what nationality we are, whether we're black, white, big, fat, whatever language we speak, what we look like, because I actually had Samoans one side and South African couple the other side. It wasn't for those 2 different nationalities, I wouldn't be standing here today. And with Gabby going out the front and yelling to the neighbours, they actually thought that we were just playing games because there was no domestic violence in my home. So the next slide that is going to come up in a minute, that I want you to know from 6:06 to 6:16, I endured 45 to 50 hits to the right side of my face. And hence why I'm scaling around the room, because I actually lost my eyesight in this eye. I've lost my sense of smell. This whole side is titanium plated and I've got an implant here, and my jawline was all smashed in. So we'll just keep, please, sorry. I'll just show you this quickly and then we'll move it on. So this is how I ended up fighting for my life. And obviously they didn't expect me to survive that night. And I'll flick it to the next one here. I'll keep talking, but we'll just take that one off the screen. So with the kids, the 2 big Samoan boys, and this is where the angels, I believe, were looking out for me to have me here today, because being the Samoan family, there was, 3 or 4 families that lived in the family that lived there, and they were meant to start work at 6 o'clock. This night, they didn't start until 8 o'clock. They actually had to come in and put their life on hold while the perpetrator still had the bat, and grab him. And they, I can always remember their smiley faces, and they said, we weren't allowed to hit him or do anything, but we did get a knee in the back and plant his face into the dirt. So they were pretty happy with themselves. And the South African lady, she came in and she worked with pathology, and once again, the right person living next door to me. She came in, and because the kids were saying Mummy's got a broken arm, she came in saying, "Get me ice for Mummy." And she looked at me just that once and said, we need to get you dry towels. That's what she said. She knew they couldn't be wet and wrap them around my head, because if they were wet, they would have killed me instantly. So she was sitting there, and in her statements, I was still alive then. I was still talking. I was still coherent, and I was making excuses saying, I need to get up and go and cook the kids dinner, obviously because that's what Gabby was doing. And then she said, no, we'll get a McDonald's later. And then she said I was complaining my nose was dripping, and she knows my nose wasn't running because I was saying I needed a tissue to wipe my nose. And she said she knew it wasn't. All she said was it was just blood dripping down my face because she couldn't actually see my eyes or anything. And so she said, I'll fix that for you. So from then moving forward, that the children obviously were taken back to the police station that night and had to give their statements, and so did the neighbours. At 2 a.m, the children did have to come and say goodbye to me because I wasn't going to live, and that was obviously the 20th September 2012. And this is where domestic violence doesn't just affect the victim, it affects the ripple effect. And that 26th, and this is always does choke me up, and I do apologise, but that date is actually Ashlyn, my middle daughter's birthday. So mentally, every year her birthday isn't what it should be for a 23-year-old. So the mindset that she follows is, Mummy, I always have to say goodbye to you on your birthday. So these are things that is why I'm here speaking around our world to make a change to save our next generations. So so obviously I survived that night and went back to theatre the next day, and they had to come in at 2 a.m. again the next day and say goodbye to me and that again. But they said, Mummy has got a 3 to 5% chance of surviving. And they said, but she will be a vegetable, she'll be tube fed, she'll be speechless, she won't be able to move, do anything. So the first 10 days were obviously touch and go, but I'm here now, and obviously the treatment since then hasn't been all bed and roses. I've had 51 operations as I stand here in front of you, and obviously I'm a perpetrator in my whole body until I die, because I actually do fly back to Brisbane every 7 to 10 days for treatment. I moved back home to rebuild myself and the children's lives, hence why I'm in Horsham. And that's where getting it back to Toastmasters with what I'm doing now and moving forward is a lady in Sydney actually told me to get involved in Toastmasters, and it would help me, hence why I travelled to Ballarat from Horsham to bring it all back in from how I started off. But now getting back into my story, so you're having that many operations and, daily treatment. Obviously, it takes me an hour to dress up and dress down, not to, get dressed. It's my war wounds around my body. But, I take it in a positive now, because I don't want to wake up in years' time and think, oh, I wish I'd done that, or I wish I'd done that, to get the best out of me. So I was never an A+ student at school, but I have been told I'm an A+ patient, and they love working with me now. But you'll see this photo behind me, and this is where I actually can thank the perpetrator for hitting me so many times, because you can see my skull is actually shattered, and I'm no doctor or no nurse or anything like that, but I have learnt so much about our human body, and we're an amazing, machine in saying that, because him hitting me so many times, as you can see, my skull is actually all cracked and whatnot. And with any brain injury, your brain just swells. And because my skull was actually that shattered, my skull was moving out with my brain at the same time. So it's all saving my life, because if he only hit me 5 to 10, my brain wouldn't have been able to move, because my skull wouldn't have been as shattered as what it is in that picture. So obviously, treatment and different things. And this arm that was first broken when I did eventually wake up in ICU, it was the weirdest feeling, because it was stiff as a board. And I thought, how am I ever going to use that again? But I used to sit in my hospital room just flipping cards. That was one of my OT sessions, and I'd do it for hours. But now I know why, because now I've got, full use of my wrists and everything. I've obviously been through my whole body and what has had to do to get me here today. And you'll see my little finger there. They had a hand specialist, but because of the scar tissue, if they tried to fix it, it'd be probably more bent than what it is. So do you know what? For my own mental state, knowing that, I'm happy with that, and I don't have to do anything else with that. But, with things like my jaw, I do got to have 2 more operations moving forward, which is I will need a whole jaw reconstruction. So I'll never have a jaw like you beautiful women in here at 40 to 45 mil, just because of the damage that is actually done. But, you know, I've had braces, I've had teeth missing, and getting back to the Collingwood supporter, I am a real one-eyed toothless. And that's where now just making, you know, myself feel better in myself and turning everything into a positive. And, you know, as a little girl growing up, who would have thought I'd be actually the Collingwood's ambassador now, you know, knowing what they do behind the scenes. It's, you know, it's a privilege to be able to do these type of things. But can we click, please? Sorry. Obviously, going through my recovery, and this is where I suppose, you know, touching base with other women or children that are affected with DV. You'll see the smile on my face there, and I've rocked many a weird and wonderful hairdos along my journey. But, you know, I actually thought I was a princess there, because a nurse said to me after, that was a 16-hour operation, because I had to actually have a section of my skull removed and put back in from the first initial operation. A bug obviously got in there. But she said to me, would you like me to wash your hair? I said, oh, yes, please. And then she said, would you like me to braid it? And I said, yeah. And, you know, just that feeling of someone giving you a bit of love. And yeah, I honestly felt like a princess there, and you can see my hands were all, you know, obviously through operation, and I actually had a drip in my foot as well. But I was just very grateful for someone helping me. She actually had to feed me, because I actually couldn't fit, you know, how skinny a McDonald's chip is. I actually couldn't even fit one of those into my mouth. And on that note, a little story on that, when I was in the brain rehab ward, you know, I had to learn how to walk, even, you know, simple things, ladies, like do your bra, I can do that. I had to learn how to do all that again, because my brain was mush. But Zach came up this time and said, wanted to take me out for dinner. Obviously I had an OT with me to take me out, and he said, where do you want to go, mummy? And I said, where do you want to go? And he goes, McDonald's. And I said, okay. And I knew I couldn't eat anything anyway. And obviously he ordered, and I had a chocolate sundae, and he goes, that's not fair, you having dessert before your main meal. But that was all that type of thing. You know, I was totally sick of mashed peas and mashed carrots, and everything was just vitaminized. And I'll be honest with you, the one thing I was craving in there was just a slice of bread with butter on it, and I knew I couldn't have it, but that was all I wanted. But yeah, obviously the journey in treatment is something I haven't let beat me, and I know, you know, I look different and always will, you know, not like normal looking females in the audience today, but I've learned a lot of things also about myself, which I hope, you know, if there's someone in this room, you know, that isn't in a good space, you know, because you know, the stats aren't good. I've learned to love and respect myself, and I love myself, not in a toppish way or anything like that. I've never felt like this before, but I've had to put myself first and accept what I am and move forward in life. Yes, I could have got depression and mental health issues, but you know what, I've gone the opposite way and haven't suffered that. I'm really lucky with the drug that the ambulance officers gave me at the scene, and which I'm, you know, obviously all different areas. My journey is able to help other people, you know, hence my story is quite big. But the drug they actually gave me at the scene, I actually don't remember any blows to the face. So I've been able to actually tell them, well, it works. So I don't have nightmares or anything like that. And so at least I can give back to them what they gave to me by saving my life. And on just while speaking on the ambulances, the children would always say to me, Mummy, you look dead. You know, you weren't responsive, you weren't moving at the scene. And obviously the ambulance officers with that last photo that they gave me, that they said we did have to put you in an induced coma at the scene because your brain was just swelling that much that you would have died on the way to hospital. So that was to help prevent the blockage of my airway. So at least little things like that might seem, you know, we don't need to know that, but my children did, for their mental state, that I was okay at the scene. And that I was being looked after. So the recovery, as I said, will be for the remainder of my life. But I take it now, and as Darryl would know, it's I just use it as a grease and oil change, just turn it into a positive, and think it's only making me better every time I do fly back and have it. And that's where I'm a prisoner in my own body for the rest of my life. But, you know, I'm here, and at least if I'm here to change someone else's life. And then on that note, oh, can we click, please? Sorry. Turning my story into a journey of positiveness. And as I said, I'm not normally a speaker. That's why I did start at Toastmasters, because I was never in front of people at all. But doing that now, I'm even speaking to perpetrators, which is something that I would not have thought I would do. And you know, actually having a perpetrator cry in front of you and admitting, yeah, I did do that. I did strangle my wife. And going into court and pleading guilty and not guilty, at least I'm changing their mindsets as well. And there was a couple of weeks ago when I spoke to them, there was actually a young lady studying to be an investigator and detective in the DV space. And she said to me, she said, why do you tell the perpetrators, or what do you say sorry to the perpetrators before you say perpetrator? And I said to them, because I don't want them to think that they're at this level in life. I want them to be up here, and that they can help be a part of making a change for our next generations coming through. So getting into the schools and different things is something that I'm loving doing. And even as young as preppies, you know, because if little Johnny is seeing a red flag from his dad or his mum, you know, it's both sides. We could be making change, and it could be affecting their schooling and different things as well. And obviously, I have got a little something here just to show, and just want to change, you know, people's mindsets. And I was asked to run the New York Marathon in the middle of all my operations, and which is, I don't know if you know, but it is the world's biggest marathon. My message in that, and I did it and did not walk a step, was that you can go from the brink of death to run the world's biggest marathon. If we change our mindsets, we can do anything. And you know what, that's what I'm doing here today. I had to change my mindset if I wanted to help make a change in someone else's life. And that's where I suppose I, you know, go back to, and I know Andy's in the audience here somewhere. I, you know, did the, when I started, it was Andy and Darryl, and you know, I can't thank them enough for it started me and my journey as well. Can I please click? Obviously, you know, getting out and working with a lot of corporates and functions. I am actually involved with 5 AFL football clubs, and obviously Collingwood is a absolute joy, and Carlton is rivalry to Collingwood, but I'm their ambassador as well. And they actually run a respects program, which is what I said at the start we need, and they actually donated $10,000 back from their playing money to help in that space, which is absolutely fantastic. And just touching base on Collingwood, they've actually got 28 homes here in Melbourne that do get women and children out of, you know, shelters and things to rehome them. And they've got a St. Vinny's in the CBD, a shop. So women that are coming out of DV, to get them back into the workplace, can actually go in there and work and get their confidence and different things like that up again. I'm also with Western Bulldogs, which obviously are in a lower associate area, and I do Daughters of the West and Sons of the West there, and a bounce back program, obviously with Bob Murphy and Jake Edwards. And just touching base on Jake Edwards there, he played for Carlton, and he was just inches away of pulling an electric cord around his neck because of mental depression. So he had to change his life, and that's why I do a bounce back program with them. But getting, there's Western Bulldogs, Collingwood, Carlton, Gold Coast Suns are with Rise Up. And that's, I'm a patron for them, and they actually set up homes, which it costs $5,000 to set up a home for a woman and children coming out of shelters. So that's really good that they support, and actually the players actually go in and set those homes up. And then the Brisbane Lions with Beyond DV, which is helping women coming out of domestic violence, but getting them back into the workplace, whether they do certificates and all that different things. So there's lots of different, besides the football clubs that I'm involved in, you know, with the police. I do a lot of work with police, with new cadets coming through, corporates. It just things that I didn't think I would ever be involved in. I'm just blessed to be able to help them, and they can unpack my story and help that next person going through. Click, please. Obviously, the red flags is something which is big on my agenda, as I mentioned, with the next generations coming through. With my red flags, you know, there was no violence or anything in that. There wasn't even, besides the deleting of the phones and the flowers, was, you know, the coercive control aspects in life. But because he was a real estate agent, getting to know him, the perpetrator told me he hadn't been married and no children. And, you know, I actually believed him because I'd been in real estate before and I knew it was crazy. You know, you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you've got to answer your phone because someone might want to buy a home. He actually told me he hadn't been married and no children. So that was okay, you know, and I believed him. After the court hearing, which was 2.5 years after the attack, only because my brain wasn't able to give any evidence, a statement, etc. And he's faced the court hearing had been, and they had the final sitting of it, and his face went around because of the result. 2 wives came forward, and he'd actually assaulted both of them, and the second one's parents as well. So my message there is we need to get, if it's a friend or someone that you know is going through domestic violence, we need to get them to report, because I shouldn't be standing here today talking to you about domestic violence if that first person had, you know, reported, because it goes back to that ripple effect, because he wouldn't have got his police check to get his real estate license. And that's, you know, I was thinking I was safe because of the police check, but that first wife didn't report it. So there's how and why, you know, especially with myself having children, and, you know, I love grandchildren and great grandchildren, not today or tomorrow, next year, but I don't want that ripple effect down the track and them, you know, going through what I've had to go through and make a change, or, you know, fight for their life in, you know, as I said earlier, that one mother that was killed 2 nights ago, you know, there's 4 young children as young as 1 without a mother for the rest of their life. So yeah, if we can look out for any little red flags, and I suppose getting back to the smiley faces, you know, checking in to make sure that everyone, are you okay, and different things, that that's not hard to do. Can we click, please? That's where you know, and if there's changes in people, in what they're wearing and different things, just yeah, do that Charlie check-in thing, which is this next slide is exactly, you know, what I'm trying to do, but I can't do it by myself. So, you know, if we can all join on this journey and help in a little bit of a way, and look out for each and every one of us, and even down to the clothing, you know, like if it was 40 degrees outside and, you know, Daryl's got a suit on, is he hiding something underneath? You know, I've got a long dress and stockings on. Am I hiding something underneath? Look at someone's dress sense. If it's not what the dress sense could be in the weather, the climates that is outside, or if they're acting funny or something. And on that note, I just say, be that nagging mum like me. Don't just ask once or twice, ask 5 or 6 times, and they'll eventually let something slip and say, oh, look, you know, last night he threw me against the wall. I've got a sore shoulder or something. And at least then you can just say, look, we can go and get help. The services are amazing, and, you know, let's just keep looking out for each other. Which is, you know, what I sort of lent into there, and there are some little points there that also to add on to what I just said. But if you know that, you know, I'm just going to use any names here. If Belinda's daughter's at school and she's rung up and said her daughter's sick at home, that's a red flag in itself, because she's covering up. You know, she may not be allowed to go to work that day, or he isn't, you know, isn't allowing her to be out in the public if something happened the night before and it has let it slip. So that, you know, just checking in is okay. It's not bad at all. Next. And this is just sort of one big slide that you know, there's a lot of writing on there, but my emphasis on it is to look out for the red flags. And that's something that you know, myself traveling around now, talking to schools, you know, with preppies as young as 5, it's awesome to go back the next year and see that in their library that they've got a red flag mural. I mean, I shouldn't say it's awesome, but it's good that they've spotted the red flags and the school are actually addressing any issues that are happening. And that's, you know, it's the same in the workplace. You know, obviously I've changed a lot of policies and procedures in different corporates around our nation. And, you know, I know there was actually the John Holland group in New South Wales. I did a Zoom to them, you know, obviously during COVID, and the DG was a male, and he listened, and after he said, Simone, I haven't got any questions for you. He goes, but I didn't realise red flags were such, you know, important things in life. And he goes, you've now changed my look on life in policies and procedures, because I didn't know it was a safe place for many women to go to. So these are all little things that we do need to look at in life. And sorry, I've probably spoken a little bit long, but I just want to finish off, if I can. This is a poem that I actually got up in the middle of Queensland, a little Aboriginal town called Cunnamulla, and it really just hits home. And I actually read this out to perpetrator groups that I do now, and a big reward for me. 3 weeks ago, this perpetrator came up to me and he said, can I please have a photocopy of that? That's me. And I just said to him, I said, you know, be proud of yourself for owning something that you've done. And I said, I am. And, you know, just to give them some positive feedback. So it goes like this. I got flowers today. We had our first argument last night, and he said a lot of cruel things that really hurt me. I know he is sorry, and he didn't mean things he said, because he sent me flowers today. I got flowers today. It wasn't our anniversary or any other special day. Last night, he threw me into the wall and started to choke me. It seemed like a nightmare. I couldn't believe it was real. I woke this morning sore and bruised all over. I know he must be sorry, because he sent me flowers today. I got flowers today. It wasn't Mother's Day or any other special day. Last night he beat me again. It was much worse than any other time. If I leave him, what will I do? How will I take care of the kids? What about money? I'm afraid and scared to leave, but I know he must be sorry, because he sent me flowers today. I got flowers today. Today was a special day. It was my day of my funeral last night. He finally killed me. He beat me to death. If only I'd gathered enough courage to leave him, I would not have got flowers today. So I just want to say a huge thank you to Daryl for having me here today, and obviously kicking off my journey, and, you know, pulling all the positives and things, and to Andy as well. They always made me feel so welcome. And yeah, thank you for listening and being a part of
We've read anything for us, please. Power of a dream, to then have the guts to write it down, and then to come and share it. And I thank you, Simone, for absolutely sharing your story, because you can see the emotions well up. I'm sure some of you got caught up in that as well, because memories, speeches, words trigger memories. So thank you for taking your time. And yeah, Andy's down the back there, and he's the little man with no hair. You want to see him there? And Andy's wife, who makes sure he's kept on the job. So that's right. It's so many years ago, and to see that, I'm sure, Andy, you would have been extraordinarily proud to see that moment from way back those years, why she came to a speechcraft course to do what she did today, and all around the world as well. So thank you very much, Simone. It's now time for morning tea. I'm sure you want to jiggle up and move around. And we have the International Eating Contest starting at 10:45. Are you ready?
We are ready.
Now remember, you've got your booklets, take notes, write things down, do stuff in there, because you never know, I might ask you if you've written something in it.